October 22nd, 1978, and this year's race, the most open on record. 40 teams, 11 models, and for the first time featuring the 3 big superbikes from Japan, all over 1,000 cc's. Will Hagan.
The weather here fine and cool but overcast, and the track in excellent order. The 1.946 kilometre Amaroo Park circuit with its 7 right-hand corners and 1 left-hand will be a real trial for riders if the weather gets hotter. The crowd building up to be a record and all in readiness for the start of this year's Castrol 6 Hour.
There's the 30-second signal about to go. 30 seconds before the start of the 1978 Castrol 6 Hour race.
30 seconds to go. Riders' pulse rates climbing, adrenaline pumping, 6 hours of hair-raising endurance racing ahead. Stand by for the Le Mans start.
The flag, Peter Rowing about to lift the flag. All riders' eyes riveted on the start flag. The most prestigious production race in Australia. Less than seconds to go. One way down the 78 Castrol 6 Hour race. Crosby gets there very quickly.
Frantic start down there on the grid as the 40 bikes got away, but Crosby, although he didn't fire first, got into the lead by virtue of his pole position and leads the race at this stage on the Honda 6. The flying New Zealander with quite a deal of slipping and sliding as he got away from the start line, nevertheless leads the race at this stage, and there were a couple of minor bingles on the start line. Nobody came off, but there were bikes touching each other as the field gets underway for the first of what will be around 360 laps, nearly a lap a minute in the Castrol 6 Hour. Down to stop corner, braking hard on these big superbikes, and then accelerating them out of there equally hard. In behind Crosby, Alan Decker of number 27. Then Alan Hales on the Suzuki 1000, and number 4 in there, Ron Bolden on the Yamaha XS 1100. The riders trying to settle themselves down as they warm up tyres and brakes and get their own minds into gear. Start to lock in and get everything right. Jim Budd's bike there smoking a little bit as he goes through, the race winner in 1976. Down through this fast sweep, had taken it over 100 miles an hour, 160 plus kilometres an hour, and then round Honda, Crosby cranked off the big Honda 6. And the question everybody's wondering is whether Crosby is going to try and run away from the field. The weather conditions cool, and that's going to suit bikes like Crosby's big Honda 6, the Yamaha 1100s, and also the Suzuki 1000, because if it's hot, the rear tyres are going to be tortured almost to destruction. In behind Crosby on number 28, flying and staying with him very easily, the South Australian Greg Pretty, being partnered by Jeff Miller. That's a Yamaha 1100, and in behind them is a Suzuki XS 1100. That's Alan Hales. So it's Honda from Yamaha, from Suzuki, the 3 big mega bikes in the first 3 places. Only a small man, Pretty, and only 2 or 3 years of racing experience, but really blossoming in the last year or 18 months of riding, and issuing a big challenge to Graham Crosby on the Honda 6. 103 brake horsepower out of that Honda, 6 cylinders, 4 valves per cylinder, and Pretty trying to get underneath him as they go down on the brakes. Pretty into the lead, and Crosby round the front of him. And Pretty only just still on the bike. The Yamaha sliding the tail out there, and it was wonderful riding from Pretty that kept him on board.
A cheeky look over the shoulder too from Crosby.
Sub 59 second laps. Pretty now in the lead. Right under, but Crosby will get him on the exit. Yes, Pretty too fast into the corner, and Crosby on the right line to come out quickly, which is the essence of all. Pretty looks to me, frankly, as though he's having a bit of a brain snap. I don't think this is the way to ride a 6-hour race, an incredible pace, and not one that Crosby would like. Crosby doesn't want this sort of scrapping. Why Pretty's doing it, I don't know. He stuck his neck out so far twice, and this seemed almost doomed to failure, and I think Crosby will let him go. Although Crosby doesn't know how to let people go in front of him. but I think he will. I think Crosby doesn't want to be drawn into that sort of thing, and he can see the danger. He could possibly get brought down by Pretty.
Now the gap between the first and last place by 8th lap is 47.5 seconds.
Former race winner Clive Knight, what's happened?
No, we've got a minor problem there at the moment, which is going to end up a major problem. I think we've sucked the cam box cover gasket in, and as you can see, the oil's spewing out all over the place, so you couldn't proceed at that rate, or we'd have been down the road, plus probably a lot of other riders down the road as well.
You're covered with boiling oil. Has it hurt you at all?
Not with these leathers on, but it's pretty slippery. It's good oil, it's Castrol.
Real drama now as the second of the 4 six-cylinder Hondas ended, runs into trouble. Graham Crosby, the early race leader, now slipping back to 3rd place behind Alan Hales on the Suzuki, and Pretty, who'd already overtaken him, and preparing to go into the pits, I think. Here he goes, Graham Crosby into the pits, the glamour bike of the race, the Honda 6-cylinder. 2 of them now into the pits in the first few minutes of this year's Castrol 6R. Graham Crosby. He's never won the 6R. On pole position yesterday with 58.1 second qualifying lap, 9/10 of a second under the race record, and here he is.
22-year-old South Australian Greg Pretty on the heaviest bike in the race in 2nd place after 34 laps. What was his pre-race plan?
To run as fast as we can. The only way we think we can do this is to make a tyre change around the 3-hour mark. The 1100 is very hard on tyres, especially around here. It's the hardest circuit on tyres in Australia as far as I know, especially on a production bike. And, but there's much rubber on the road for the whole race. We figure we can keep up a very fast time. So we're hoping that we can keep the pace on them to wear their tyres out, so they have to make a change.
Well, Pretty certainly worked his bike towards the tyre change the way he tackled the opening part of the race. Lapping at 58.2 seconds in the opening laps, now slipping back to just under 1 minute, about 59.8 second laps, but Pretty still running in 2nd place on the enormously big Yamaha, although it doesn't have the outright acceleration of the Honda 6s, being beaten by just 2/10 of a second over a standing 400 metres. It does 11.8 seconds. The Honda does an incredible 11.6 seconds in standard form. It's a very torquey bike in the mid-range.
Hadn't you sorted out the problem?
Yes, well, the fuel strikes put us in this position. We've had to run 100 octane fuel. We run ordinary pump petrol. We've got only 100 octane to run this morning. I suspect it's got lead in it. It's causing the thing to seize up when you peel off into the fast corners.
It's not the brakes at all?
No.
You're going to retire the bike?
We'll have to. We'll hurt ourselves otherwise.
It's only in pole position. You look the race favourites. What a disappointment for you.
That's racing.
No change in the leading situation with 50 laps completed and approaching the end of the first hour of the race. Alan Hales on the Suzuki leads from, in 2nd place, Greg Pretty on the Yamaha. In 3rd place at the moment, Michael Cole on the Honda. 4th is the Suzuki, Jeff Parkin. David Robbins on the Yamaha in 5th place, and Jim Budd on the Yamaha in 6th place. 30-year-old Sydney motorcycle dealer Alan Hales, a great 3rd on a Kawasaki 650 in 76, 4th last year, and enjoying the race lead on the big Suzuki 1000.
Handling is a very important fact here for Amaroo, but we're not down on power by any means. Our bike is pretty much as fast as anything else in the race. Our bike is so well set up really that we don't have to really take it easy. We can go pretty much as fast as we like from the outset of the race.
Hales very consistent, able to apply pressure all through the race and to do consistently fast laps. Very physical rider, moves the body around a lot on the bike, getting off one side then the other. But with perhaps the best handling bike to come out of Japan, the Suzuki 1000, he's reveling in it. He rode his heart out last year on the 650 Kawasaki and came 3rd outright. This year he's got the power and the handling, and Alan Hales running very confidently up at the front of the field. In fact, keeping pace now with Jeff Parkin on 14, who is in 5th place. So he's lapped the 5th place rider at this stage.
The bike with a big power advantage over the rest of the field. In 3rd place at the moment, 24-year-old Michael Cole. What are the disadvantages and the advantages of the Honda?
Oh, the advantages and disadvantages that we thought we would have when we initially came here are sort of like been nullified. We thought we'd have at least 5 bike lengths up the straight performance, but it's not the case at all. Amaroo is the type of track where you can't really stand the bike up and use its brute power. You've got to feed it on in small doses, and that's what everyone has to do. Consequently, you get the tyres just can't keep up with the power, so it's absolutely just no faster whatsoever.
That's Michael Cole that gave the Honda 6 victory in its World Race debut. It called her in the 2-hour race there not very long ago, and then came home in 2nd place behind one of the Suzukis in the recent Surface 3-hour. So he has an excellent finishing record, not one of our top riders, the very top riders, but running a very consistent, sensible pace at this stage, and in 3rd place outright. Jim Budd won the race in 1976, riding bike number 3 and in 5th place at the moment. Let's get on board for the ride of your life on the Yamaha 1100. Quite a ride on the saddle of one of these bikes. I found out a few weeks ago riding round behind Len Attlee, but at racing speeds there with Jim Budd, it really is fearsome. The tachometer spinning up into the red all the time, the rider squeezing the brakes hard, and it's either full throttle throwing you off the back of the bike or full brakes throwing you forward onto the petrol tank. Quite violent forces throwing the rider around, and Jim Budd doing a great job on number 3. At exactly half race distance, the race leader Alan Hales now has covered 180 laps, indicating a potential race distance of 360 laps, which would pass by 4 laps the record race distance of last year. But of course there is still the unknown quantity of having perhaps to do a tyre change, although on the Suzuki they say they can do it in around 40 seconds. Butte dice going on here between Jim Budd on 3 and the race leader Alan Hales on number 6. Budd is lying in 4th place at this stage, taking no nonsense at all from the race leader. They've just swapped place twice a couple of moments ago as they go up to the top of the hill again. The former race winner Jim Budd on number 3, and there we see Hales nipping in front of him, Budd nipping in front of him again as they go through the loop. Fast into the loop means slow out, as was proved there, but no quarter being given here between these two riders. You can see the more concise style of Jim Budd on number 3. Two disparate bikes too, the big 1100 Yamaha, the heaviest bike in the race, and with sharp drive, enormous mid-range pickup and power, and the lighter Suzuki 1000 going around the outside of him there as they come down into Rothman's corner, and getting out of that corner very well too for the smaller, lighter bike, not as powerful and with not as much grunt in the mid-range as the big Yamaha. The Yamaha actually in mid-range will out-accelerate the Honda 6, but it doesn't do it when revved right out from a standing start. It is just a fraction slower. But a good battle going on there. 185 laps completed. So just over a fraction, a little bit more than half race distance, and yet these two going hammer and tongs as if it's a 10-lap sprint. Hales now leading Bud, starting to pull away a bit too. And Bud, no mean rider at all. He was the one last year that did the wall of death act just back at the previous corner, Mazda House there. The second last lap of the race when chasing Joey Muir, trying to peg him back for first place outright as they go round Rick Perry there with 26 on the back of his leathers. That's his normal race riding number, but today he's on a different numbered bike, which incidentally is going very well in the 750 class. He's on a 650 Kawasaki. It is number 26, so it ties in with his normal race riding number. Oh, and up in the Dunlop loop, that is Alan Hales, the race leader, off bike number 6 in a desperate pursuit of Roger Hayes riding bike number 3. They were engaged in incredible scrap, and it has all come undone. Here's the replay over the top of the hill. Roger Hayes there on 3, coming up to lap number 40, and Alan Hales watching the race leader on number 6. Hayes into the loop. He's lying fourth, and down goes Alan Hales as the back wheel steps out. He's okay. The bike went away from him, and he will be quite okay. It's a matter of whether the bike's all right. Very, very bad luck or bad judgment. Hales checking the bike and trying now desperately to get it back to the pits. The race leader in front of bike number 8 in second place, the Michael Cole Honda 6-cylinder, which now will move up into the lead. Hayes will now come up into second place at this stage on number 3. Fourth place will be number 31, David Robbins, on the 1100 Yamaha from Queensland. And this is Alan Hales, a man who's dominated the race so far, sitting back in third place in the opening laps. But then, whilst Greg Cretty and Graham Crosby engaged in a furious dice, then took over the race lead as they slipped back and Crosby pitted, and has dominated the race ever since, even during pit stop.